Hi, it's Gordon. I'm the happiness guy and I want to shoot you a pretty quick video on motivation and how to have more motivation. So if you struggle with it, this is going to be a good video for you. So what is motivation? Very quickly, it is a feeling that exists in advance of doing the thing that you need to do to get something you want to get or kind of progress in some way. And the problem with motivation is it's quite fleeting. It's a little bit unreliable, isn't it? It doesn't show up when you would love it to show up. So we often don't feel like it. So just as an aside, if you're using motivation as your primary strategy to get things done, you might not have a brilliant life, because motivation is pretty transient. It is and can be kind of quite flimsy. It's certainly not robust. And I think there are things other than motivation that make a big difference to getting things done. But I'll talk about that in a separate video. Let's say, because I promised that today would be motivation. So let's say we're talking about motivation, but what are the 4 things that make the biggest difference to you having higher levels of motivation? In fact, it's probably 5, but we'll kind of start. The first one will be belief. And it's a lack of belief. So either you've got a lack of belief that the thing that you're thinking of doing will work, or you've got a lack of belief that you will do it or do it consistently enough so that it works. So if you've got a lack of belief, motivation's going to fall. So that's the first thing, and we'll come back then and go through them in terms of how to improve upon it. But let's just go kind of first with here are the problems. So lack of belief, number 1. Number 2, lack of clarity. If you don't know exactly what to do, and sometimes when to do it, then you're often not going to do it, because as soon as you're uncertain about something, you don't engage. You'll often go away and do something else instead, and that's where procrastination often will show up. And so we know that there's something we should do, but we're not quite sure how to do it, so we go away and we do something. We go away and we do something else. So a lack of clarity is really problematic if we're going to be motivated. So we need to know exactly what we're going to do and exactly when we're going to do it, and perhaps for how long, and maybe we need to even make it smaller than we would think, because that makes it easier. But we need clarity. We need belief and we need clarity in order to be motivated. Purpose. That's the third thing. We need purpose. Now, let's take something like getting fit or losing weight. They're the things that we might care about. We don't care so much about going for the walk, but it's the underlying purpose that makes the walk important. So going for the walk itself is not really what you want, although you might come to enjoy it. What you really want is the outcome of going for the walk. So you must tie the task or the thing to what it is you want. You've got to link them together in your brain. So you've got to tell yourself stories. Well, I'm doing this so that I get that. And it needs to be really, really clear. And then when you're doing it, you want to think about, okay, and this is how it ties to my purpose. And after you're finished, you want to say, well done. Because it helps to praise yourself. It kind of gives you a positive emotion, and it will help you be more motivated the next time. So you need to tie it to your purpose. There's a second component to purpose that's problematic when it comes to motivation. And that component is that when it comes to purpose, you've got more than one. You've got many purposes, and they compete. And you don't maybe know which one's the most important, or perhaps you've got them in the wrong order. So competing purposes or competing priorities will often be enough to stop you in your tracks as well. So if you're struggling to do something, it's often that you've not got it prioritized highly enough up. But if it keeps coming up and up and up, but you're not getting it done, then somewhere along the way, something you're telling yourself isn't quite true, because it clearly is important to you. So stop deprioritizing it, because you could spend a life just in regret, feeling bad about not doing, when instead you should just put it to where it naturally needs to be. You must look after yourself, so you're important, and kind of prioritize things that will help you be best you. So belief, clarity, purpose. 4th thing that's kind of often missing when it comes to motivation, energy. I think that's one of the biggest things that we miss in day-to-day life. If we had more energy, what would we get done? We describe it as, I don't have the motivation, but in reality, it's often not that. And that's too vague. We can't fix that, and that's why I'm making this video. it's that we don't have the belief, or that we don't have the clarity, or we don't have it tied to purpose, or we've got competing purposes, or we don't have the energy. And if you don't have the energy, then you've got a couple of ways around that. You could kind of think about, well, where do I schedule it? Do I schedule this thing in earlier so that I've got more energy? Or do I do it in such a way that it doesn't take too much energy, that it's got a small energy cost? And perhaps by doing the thing, and this is often the case, you get more energy. So a lot of people don't exercise because they think they haven't got the energy for it. They go to work, they're pretty exhausted by the time the end of the day comes, and then they think they've got to go to the gym and exercise really hard for an hour, and they can't face that, so they don't do it, and instead they beat themselves up mentally and emotionally, and the energy gets drained anyway, and they might do that for months and years. So instead, when it comes to something like energy, think, well, how can I do this in such a way that I get more energy? And I do that with exercise all the time. So gentle stretching would absolutely do it. Going for a walk would absolutely do it. Doing exercise for a fairly short space of time. Doesn't need to be an hour, doesn't even need to be half an hour. You need to form the habit of, because once it's a habit, you don't need motivation. But until it's a habit, you do. So make it small so that the energy cost is small. And do it in such a way that you feel good after it and that you get energy from doing it. And I do exercise in the morning before I start working so that I feel how I want to feel, and that I've got more energy, not less, through the day. And the last one, and I know I've already gone through 4, but I think this is kind of really, really important. The last one in terms of motivation is it doesn't show up until you've done something. You need to take action and have had a positive experience in relation to that action for motivation to grow. So you expect motivation in advance, but that's not how it works. Motivation will show up after you've done the thing. So you need to give yourself that wee nudge push through that first couple of times. Once you've done that, the motivation will start to grow, but until then, it's not going to be present. So those are the kind of the main things in and around problems with motivation. And so I think if you tell yourself a better story, instead of saying I don't feel like it or I'm not motivated, work it out and say, well, okay, my belief's lacking, but here's how I can improve my belief, or my clarity's lacking, so here's how I could get clearer, or purposefully, this is how it links to what really matters to me, or schedule it or do it in such a way that you've got more energy. If you kind of approach something that you're trying to get done with those components in mind, then I'm certain you're going to do much better with it. And I'm going to shoot another kind of quick video immediately after this one on my preferred strategy for motivation. So that'll leave you all hanging a bit, but apologies for that. I hope you found this video useful. If you've got any questions, then kind of by all means kind of send me a text or an email. I'd love to help you with it. And otherwise, have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye-bye.